Welcome to this video. We will talk about the mystery of Flight 513 that crossed time. A plane appears 35 years after its disappearance over the Atlantic Ocean. Flight 513 mystery that crossed time. A plane appears 35 years after its disappearance over the ocean. The space and travel sectors have had a prominent place in science fiction for decades, and our story here is one of the few indications of some facts in fiction. The story, Santiago Flight 513, was not just an ordinary story to the best of our knowledge, but it represents a really interesting part, where magic arises from the idea of travel in time. I have written many stories about air travel since this type of transportation became available for the first time, and a newspaper reporter named Erwin Fisher, 1954 airliner lands, published about the return of a plane with 92 people on board in the weekly magazine, Weekly World News, on November 14, 1989. The flight, Santiago 513, departed from what was then Aachen in western Germany on September 4, 1954, with 88 passengers and 4 crew members on board, and the trip was just a typical routine trip between two cities, and the travelers had no reason to think about it twice. And somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean, something happened where the flight disappeared without a trace and did not reach its destination, and that was until October 12, 1989. Despite the uncertainty of the reality of the situation, the airport authorities sent a team to investigate, as the plane itself was technologically less advanced, but this was not the reason for what happened, and yet the airline, Santiago, stopped operating in 1956, and therefore there were more questions. It is urgent and takes precedence in the mystery of Flight 513 when it took off in 1954 and reappeared after 35 years. The security forces tried to get to the plane, but the reason for not communicating was clear, and the answer to that mystery was not easy, especially with the sight of 92 skeletons sitting all in their seats, and the skeleton of Miguel Victor Cowry, the pilot of the plane, was still holding the keys to control the engines, and he has seen that can only be achieved by landing the plane safely. And once this shocking discovery was made, explanations and theories were proposed and discussed, among which was the clear theory that it is a hoax, but how and why? At least one researcher recorded the extraordinary event to announce that the only possible explanation that fits all the details that have been reported is that the plane has imbalanced its temporal balance, and Dr. Celso Otello was unable to explain the transformation of everyone on board to the skeleton condition, nor was he able to understand how the great captain might have landed the plane after those years passed. An official from the Brazilian government has also investigated the circumstances of the flight, but they have explicitly refused to benefit from any conclusions or any aspect of the investigation as a whole. The aviation official confirmed that the plane suddenly appeared in the air and even landed safely, and this raised a lot of controversy about what happened, creating an entirely new look when the concrete secrecy behind the investigation angered many, prompting researchers to make many calls to the government demanding that civilians be allowed to assist in ongoing investigations. It is clean, and to reveal what you know from the facts, because in this is a crime against science to withhold any known information regardless of what the truth of the matter was. If this plane had entered into a time loop and there was evidence to prove that, then the world must be told all of this is something that will change the way we view our world and may change the science that we know as well. The counter saying on this was that the government could reveal what many people consider to be the truth and risk panic, or they can remain calm and risk their credibility. The Weekly World News newspaper published the story of Santiago Flight 513 in 1989, and it exists until now. Despite this, critics of Flight 513 insist that it is nothing more than an urban legend or an attempt to sell newspapers. As for the physical opinion on the story, it started with Einstein's introduction. His general relativistic theory that describes how mass affects space and time is essentially interconnected, as it is a theory not only from the curved space but also from the curved or distorted time as well. And the big question that physicists hope for decades has known its answer: can space and time be dramatically distorted to such a degree that some points in time come in contact or overlap, which makes time travel possible? This is despite his fact that it does not preclude the presence of a place dear to science fiction stories, as many books and popular films about the time of circumvention, such as Back to the Future or Philadelphia Experience, have shown a scientific view rather than fiction, not to mention the science fiction TV programs such as Star Trek, which ignited the imagination of many futurists, and in countless instances, science fiction has become a scientific fact, and atomic clocks have proven the temporal relationship by showing how time flies more quickly from far away, and reducing the force of gravity causes the atomic clock to run faster. On the contrary, time slows down when traveling at high speed. Scientists have also also confirmed that Einstein's theory illustrates the observation of how the sun blocks space by seeing the waves of light or radio that curve around it. Some of the most exciting scientific discoveries in history have begun with the seeds of science fiction, so is it really possible that a journey across the Atlantic Ocean begins and disappears for a while 35 years before she returns and lands safely with her dead crew on shabby seats? Most likely not. Travel through time may not be a possible reality today, but in the context of stories such as Flight 513, imagination is an unlimited playground that can take one on a journey through a time hole and return from it a dilapidated skeleton. This is the end of today's video. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell button to receive all our updates.